Okay, so to make the Death Star, these are the steps. First, you're going to need a big, giant beach ball. I got this from Amazon, and it was like $18 for 2 of them. And then we're going to need some solution, right? The solution is just nothing but water, flour, and if you want, you can add like 2 tablespoons of Elmer's glue, and then blend it together, okay? It's about 1 part flour and 3 to 5 parts water, up to you. The thicker, the harder the case, okay? All right, so we're going to cut newspaper into tiny little strips. Make sure they're not much bigger or wider than an inch. And then we're going to apply it onto the blown up beach ball, right? So we don't want to just go one direction. We want to crisscross all the way across, all right? That way it doesn't have any weak spots when we're done, okay? So these are the first things we do. So here you can see I am putting some vertical, right, and then some horizontal, some diagonal. But overall, we want to continue to do this throughout the entire surface of this beach ball. When we're done, we want to make sure we do it again, multiple layers. So basically all, over here, as you can see, over here, I'm just doing it over and over again. But make sure to leave the hole where you can deflate the beach ball later on, right? So I sat this whole beach ball on top of a Tupperware so everything can just drain into the Tupperware, okay? So make sure, we clean out the Tupperware overnight because it's flour and water and it will attract bacteria. And so you do want to clean that out every day, all right? So one thing that I used was just yellow pages, right? I cut it into strips, and the yellow pages provided many strips for me to use, right? So this is like multiple layers of just the newspaper and the solution, right? Just keep applying to it. So overnight it's going to harden and it should be pretty hard. So the next day you want to apply another layer to it and do it again, all right? So my Death Star here has a total of 5 layers at least, and it's pretty hard. You can just kind of knock on it and you'll feel it, right? So this is where we're going to cut out the dish for the laser beam of the Death Star, right? And it happens to be where I deflate the ball and take out the ball later on too, okay? So I make it convenient for myself. So after we cut out this ball, right, so I trace it out and make a circle with like a paper plate so it's nice and perfectly round, and then I just cut it with a X-Acto knife. Now you want to deflate the ball before you do this, otherwise when you cut it with a X-Acto you're just going to pop it, right, the beach ball, right? So you got to be careful here. And now the painting part. So what I did for the painting is I took like some masking tape and I kind of just did the equator, went around the equator of this guy, and then I did some spacing, and then I drew lines, did some spacing, and I drew lines, right, over this section, right, and then I vertically tape more masking tape like this, some like this, and I use some like thinner masking tape, right, to do these lines. But basically you work out the pattern by looking at some picture, and then you will paint it with a dark gray. I use acrylic paint to basically paint everything, all right? So after you paint everything, you should be able to remove the masking tape, and then it should create a pattern. So here, as you can see, I removed the masking tape. Some of the stuff bled through, but it's okay because we're going to paint that section later on for touch-up. So if it's a little messy, don't worry about it. We're going to paint over it. All right, so this is painted gray. And now after we're done with the gray, we can paint these inner sections. So the next thing I did is do the windows of the Death Star, right? The Death Star is huge, so the windows are just basically dots. And to do that, I use a metallic type of Sharpie with metallic kind of like a paint, and it's shiny, right? I use some purple color, some silver color, some green color and some, orange color, whatever. You want to dot it, copying some sort of pattern that you can find on the internet. And, this Death Star is huge, so there's like 3,000 dots, right? It took me a long time to dot everything. Doesn't have to be perfect, but, it just gives it some, a nice touch. So now we're going to make the equator of the Death Star light up with some LED strings. I got this from Amazon, and I think it's pretty long, like 16 feet or something like that, right? So I wrapped it around my Death Star 2 times, one on top, one on the bottom. Basically, I just drill a little hole in the back, and I put my LED battery in there, and it comes out of the hole, and it goes around the Death Star, and then goes around the Death Star again. And then to glue these LEDs down, I use basically just glue gun. I use the glue gun to touch the Death Star, and then I press the LED against it. Be careful, it's kind of hot, but I just went around 2 times. Okay, so what I did is I finished the painting, the rest, right? I didn't really use tape. I just painted by hand. If it's a little rough, it's okay, not a big deal. But let's talk about the dish. Right, so this dish is just a salad bowl cover I got from the dollar store. I spray paint that with a metallic silver, and then I marked the locations, right, of these lights in the back, and I use my glue gun to kind of heat up a hole into it where I can place some LEDs in there. The LEDs I also got from the dollar store. It's like one of those LED controller. It has, it takes 2 batteries, and then it has like 10 LEDs, right? So all I do is just put them all around this thing. I basically only use 8 of them. All right, in the back of this main beam, is a high power flashlight, and it's very, very bright. All right, so I glue gun it to this piece right here. It's basically one of those dollar store cheap lightsabers that kids use. I just hack it up, and then I glue gun it to my flashlight, and then I paint it red. All right. So basically, all the battery and all the things are in the back. The way I stuck this dish to the Death Star is using some Velcro, so we can remove this pretty easily to turn things off, turn things on and off, whatever, and access the inside of the Death Star, right? So once, when we paint it red, the cool thing about it is it makes this lava effect, right? So it looks really cool when you turn the light off. So yeah, you turn everything on and it looks like this. So as you can see, kids love this, right? I can continue to actually touch up this Death Star and add more details to it, but it just depends on how much time you want to spend on it after that, okay? So if you make this and you wear a black costume and you just hold this, you can walk around the neighborhood trick-or-treating with your kids, and you can be the Death Star. If they can dress in all black and have them hold Star Wars fighter jets, and you guys could, create your own Star Wars space battle while trick-or-treating. It's going to be fun. Good luck.